Hello and welcome. You've joined the Leg Up, your weekly thoroughbred preview podcast, and what a week to be joining us. It is Vodafone New Zealand Derby week, and I'm joined as always with my good offsider Stephen Hunt. Good morning to you, Steve. Derby Day always holds a place in your heart.
Oh, fantastic. Blue Ribbon event, you'd so call the Derby, and some nice races in the undercard as well. So a glamour filly up against the boys, it's mouthwatering.
Yeah, we're going to be touching on that obviously in a wee while, but last week first.
Yeah, Mudda. They had their big day throughout the racing calendar. Played up and in, but historically, we mentioned it last Saturday, that breeders/slipper day can play that way. So you probably had to be in the first 4 or 5 to be a winning chance. Imperatriz.
Yeah, gee. Yeah.
Outstanding on the eye, backed up on the clock, 5 lengths above par for her performance in the Lisa Chittick Plate, beating the mares.
Living Classic, or what do we...
Oh, it's got to be Living Classic off that figure. That's one of the higher figures I've recorded thus far for a 3-year-old in any race. It's including Nevere and the 1,000 Guineas, etc. So she's right up with the boys, 1,600 metres at Trentham. Look, she led. I thought tactically Jamie and Michael worked that race out with the scratching of Show of Roses, who came out just before midday.
Yes.
There didn't look to be any default or any leader in the race once Show of Roses came out. So tactically they rode her like the best horse in the field, and it was game over at the top of the straight. She wasn't really let down. It was a fantastic win by Imperatriz, and she's definitely the horse to beat in my eye, just off the figures, which was recorded in the Lisa Chittick, to be the horse to beat in the Living Classic.
Yeah, okay. Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to look at that futures market for a Living Classic a little bit later on in the show. But before we do that, we want to say good morning to Brendan Pop. Well, Brendan, where are you? Is this a place of interest? Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, lads, and yes, joining you from home. So yes, unfortunately stuck at home isolation with COVID in the household, so won't be able to leave the front gate till Tuesday morning, so hopefully negative test then and we can press on. So yeah, unfortunately missing the Derby on the weekend, but other people are in worse situations than that is for sure. So it's a chance to kick back and watch the Derby from home, and what a race it is going to be on the weekend. We'll talk more about that. Of course, you mentioned, Stephen, about Mudda, and we had the Group 1 day down at Otaki, and what a win by Mascarpone, who was a horse who was a good mover in the market too. Punters were keen to snaffle up any of those big prices of 16s right down to that $9 quote, and a gun ride from Wuramu Pin. I must say, I like how reserved he was after the race. It was a reserved Wuramu Pin, who knows that there's a lot more in front of him in terms of his riding career, with how talented he is in the saddle, and he's shown that already in a very small sample size, and he got that ride bang on, didn't he, aboard a horse who was the query at the 1,600 metres, but had the Group 1 credentials and weight for age form to say he could go awfully close. Good runs in behind from the Jamie Richards barn of Amadalena, and also Brando and Hessebro finishing into 4th position. But yeah, can't wait to dive into the form team for the weekend.
It was shades of David Walsh, BP. Wuramu Pin, you're buying his story that he veered his way out into the centre of the track. Do you think Mascarpone took him there?
Bit of both, maybe. Yeah. But what we did see is there was a pattern developing, wasn't there, where horses were keen to get away from those inside sort of 2, 3, 4 strips from the rail, and Mascarpone and Wuramu Pin, well, he was keen to get to the middle, and Mascarpone was maybe keen to get a touch wider than the centre part of the track. Either way, it panned out. It was a Group 1 victory to Team Rogerson and Wuramu Pin.
Yeah, either way, it looked like a bit of genius. Good morning to you, Paul White. I think we've got you in the other studio. Are you with us? Paul, come in.
Yeah, good morning, boys.
Is that your opening? Good morning, boys.
Well,
you got nothing more to add?
I'm still disappointed that, once again, I missed Langkawi in the Kaimai. As did a number of other punters as well, because around $27. I don't know. I just can't catch Langkawi.
He snuck off the bench, didn't he, Paul? He was an emergency.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, it's maybe how he caught us out. Derby Day. You looking forward to Saturday?
Very much so. Yeah. Will the filly do it? She does look the business, doesn't she? Yeah. I'm just trying to think back when was the last time a filly won the Derby? Was it
Habibi?
Was it Habibi? No.
Habibi, Silent Achiever, they went to back-to-back in 2012, 13, possibly. Yeah.
Very good. Not bad. Yeah, no, look, she certainly looks like she's going to be awfully hard to beat. We'll get to that race in just a second. But before we do, we want to touch on BP's Maiden of the Week. Pops, who have you got for us?
Yeah, went for a race that was yesterday out of Rotorua. Went for a 2-year-old. Sometimes try to keep away from a 2-year-old for our maiden of the week, but it's pretty hard to ignore what we saw here. This is something you don't see normally, and especially for a 2-year-old over a short course race of 1,215 metres, was at least 2 to 3 lengths off them at the 800 metre mark. Michael McNabb, though, did the right thing here with Rudyard, just saved ground, cut corners, and here gets right up on the heels of the leaders, gets the gap at the right time. And boy, doesn't he run away for the prize. A very good win from a 2-year-old by Charm Spirit. Out of the good mare, and Lady Kipling, of course, a stakes performer. She was a Group 1 placed 4 times at the Group 1 level was Lady Kipling, and twice a Group 2 winner. And this horse has been very soft on the line, Rudyard. So look out for him potentially seeing through publications that maybe there's a chance we'll see him in the Queensland winter. So very much a horse we want to identify here now and say that he's one to put into the black book for maybe over the winter months.
Yeah, any initial thoughts, Steve? You probably haven't had a chance to crunch the numbers around Rudyard yet.
No, not yet, but BP's bang on out of Lady Kipling's Aberbeal mare, won 11 races, including Group 2 victory in the Thoroughbred Breeders. So a little bit of pedigree there. I believe they paid some decent money, the NZB sales a season or so ago for this horse. So, yeah, plenty of upside.
Won't mind a bit of cut in the track, you'd think.
Lady Kipling didn't mind a bit of fire out of the track.
Yeah.
So, yeah, possibly.
Okay, there we go. One to follow for BP. And if we can get into some of those Queensland futures, TJ Smiths and the like, maybe that'll be the way to go around Rudyard. Righto, team. Without further ado, let's get into this Ellerslie meeting. We've got 4 races we want to touch on. We want to start in the Derby, Steve. And no surprise who Foo the favourite is.
Yeah, the filly La Creek, the one and only filly in the field, $1.85 trading in the red. Hasn't budged since the opening call on Wednesday afternoon, Thad, but $1.85 for La Creek, well played. In front of Pinarello, 3.8, clearly in that second elect. White Noise also well played at $9. Tudukaka, $13, shares that fourth line with Marchand. RJ's Flight, $15. Can't remember the last maiden to win a Derby. BP might have a bit of form reference around that, but RJ's Flight, $15 in that middle market. Then there's a decent gap. Nest Egg, Regal Lion, Asterix, all $41 each of 3, and SVR, who's a heavy liability on futures betting, Thad, around about $51. So at this stage, not one single horse has come in from their original price, but a lot of steady money around the top 2, even White Noise in that third line.
Okay, the market looking reasonably settled, BP, but be no surprise, she deserves her odds-on favouritism, La Creek, off that last Avondale Guineas one.
She does, and that's the form we use, don't we, so often going into the Derby, and in the last 10 years that has paved the way in trying to find the winner. If it's not the horse who wins the Avondale Guineas, it's a horse that has performed well in that race. In the last 10 runnings of the Avondale Guineas, we've seen 9 horses come out of that race and win, and of course 6 of those 10 won the Avondale Guineas to go on and win the Derby. So I guess we were looking for maybe a different barrier draw for the horse. Would that have changed things? Would La Creek drawn badly? How much an effect would this had on the market in terms of her, say, starting around that 220, 240 mark? Obviously, you had her at 260 futures. Then there was those few horses came out. She was around 220 before barrier draws were announced. She gains barrier draw 1 in a race where there isn't the tactical speed from many others. She's a horse that can just plant herself there. She is a natural runner that will naturally can put herself in the running. So to be able to get 2,400 metres, she can go the short way home the whole way and follow the rail. So that is a massive advantage for the horse who was going to start the favourite in the race. And we saw her early acceleration out of the barriers too. Craig Rules in that Avondale Guineas race was keen to be able to put her in a position from barrier number 9 before going into that short run up the hill and got into that position of the trail. And it was a race where, look, it was messy for those that were back and running with La Creek's Avondale Guineas victory, which helped horses like RJ's Flight, who got a beautiful suck run underneath horses, followed the rail. I thought White Noise was, without a doubt, the horse out of the race behind La Creek with how he's been able to run the second best sectionals in the race. But now that she's drawn 1, she has the options of being leader, trailer, if anything else wants to do something different to try and upset the filly. And you've got the right man aboard who's trying to find 7 Derby victories. He knows how to win the race in Vincent Colgan. Really, it's a hard horse to tip against, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. Would the draw have made a heck of a lot of difference? I mean, she drew 12, Steve, in an Avondale Guineas. I would probably just solidified the price, if anything.
Yeah, she might have touched even money if she'd drawn a double figure next to her name. But look, I don't think they'll want to lead. Marchand from a wide gate. maybe that pushes forward, possibly leader. The only query if the filly does lead is I think there will be a mid-race move, because if she leads, she'll be able to dictate, and if she can hold up the tempo, just slacken it off mid-race, and it's a sprint home, she wins every day of the working week. So, if she leads, she might be a bit of a sitting duck, and they might attack her mid-race around that 1,000-metre mark, and the likes of possibly SVR, Regal Line, these one-pace stayers might look to attack her if she is the leader, even possibly Pinarello, because the only way Pinarello can beat her is if it's a true staying 2-4 event. So if she's getting her own way in front leading, then even Pinarello might make a mid-race move and really take it to her around about that 800,000 metre mark. So, I think in an ideal world, with the connections and Vinnie Colgan, they'll be wanting to take a sit. Hopefully Marchand comes across from that wide gate and she can take that trailing position. But $1.85, look, I think she starts in the red regardless. I think we're pretty confident around that. Just weighing up the Avondale Guineas, the rating 65, Pinarello won on the same day.
So, this, isn't there? Yeah.
Well, on raw figures, the Avondale Guineas rated 4 lengths superior, Pinarello's victory in rating 65. But you do the weight adjustment, the Guineas still rates 2 lengths superior. So look, it's going to be tricky, because I feel Pinarello is going to be a cups horse in time.
I was going to say, there still looks to be upside around Pinarello, you would say, though.
Saying that, La Creek does have the pedigree to get 2-4, but I think she's just got such a class about her that this time next year she'll be contesting weight for age at 2,000 metres. So, it's an intriguing one, but I just feel that they might just want to take a sit rather than lead with La Creek, and hopefully 1 or 2 horses from a wide gate take it up in the first furlong or two at the start.
Okay, Paulie, what are your initial thoughts here in a derby? It's hard to get away from her, but anything can happen in a Group 1 3-year-old.
Yeah, no, she does look the one to beat. She has been very, very classy over her last few starts. Steve mentioned there's a wee bit of a liability on SVR. What he didn't mention was our worst result by far and away in this futures market is on Pinarello. Has been very, very well backed. We took a 10k bet at $5.50, a $600 bet at $31. If you want to cheer against the TAB this Saturday, you'll be cheering for Pinarello to get up and wave to the crowd. I see the Baker Forsman team. We've got a trio of runners here, led by White Noise. I don't mind the look of Regal Lion. I like the way he's finished off. I thought he got to the line and was it the Waikato Guineas? Just kept coming as well. Yep. And at $41, I think represents a wee bit of value, especially if you're looking at a top 3 or a top 4. So I've got Regal Lion in there somewhere. In fact, I think I found a power play that we can have a little go at. That includes La Creek and Regal Lion.
Okay, you're going to keep that up your sleeve until the end. Okay, I understand that. Oh, look, BP, Tutakaka. What do we make of Tutakaka's run in the Avondale Guineas? I was probably expecting a little bit more. We didn't quite see the Tutakaka we perhaps saw in Australia.
We didn't, did we? And I guess you've got to take the comments on of JKB Riddell, which were posted on, of course, the LSE website, where they interviewed the jockey straight after the race. He just came back and said it never tried, the Tutakaka. What I would say is that if you go back over his run 2 starts ago, they went blisteringly hard, didn't they? It was a race set up for back markers, and he was able to show his best form by flooding home over 1,600 metres and finishing hard. And you went, wow, there's the Derby favourite, basically, with how he ran in that Karaka Classic. We'd all seen him run through the spring. He ran 6th in the Victorian Derby. He was a Geelong Classic winner. We know he goes further the better with Tutakaka. His disappointing runs, obviously first up in the Auckland Guineas, no speed in the race. Field of Gold led, Dark Destroyer sat in the trail, they ran the Cornella. His disappointing run on 2 weeks ago, Avondale Guineas, got back, race didn't develop into his favour. So what do they need to do to try and help his chances? Is it by putting him forward in the race? He has to be in the first half of the field first of all, because I think if he sits back and there's no tempo in the race, the same thing's just going to happen, isn't it? So is he the one horse where something a little bit different needs to happen for him to be at his best? He's drawn out. Is it a case that he goes back and we see the same thing again, or do they try something with him and put him and be a little bit more urgent in that first half of the race? If they are and offers Australian spring form, well, then he has a chance. It's just when you hear comments like Jonathan's made and how to try and weigh up that run and how the race developed, and if that's the same thing on the weekend, tricky horse to have. That's why I think RJ's Flight actually becomes an option. I mean, we keep talking about the Avondale Guineas as a race. I think he's a great top 3, top 4 chance, RJ's Flight, because he potentially could get the same sort of run. I mean, he's a horse who just sat back on the rail. He followed the horses through. Lark Creek was too good for him, yes, but he was a runner that still ran well to finish into that second spot and was the next best in the race. So he could run a very similar race and gain a top 4 placing. I think Regal Lion is, the comments from Matt Cameron was bring on the Derby after the Avondale Guineas with how he ran in that race. Yes, he has to turn around that defeat. He's going to get more distance. They've spoken highly about how he will run out an extra distance. He is probably the other roughie in the race that you could entertain a top 4 bet, or maybe a power play or a trifecta in first 4 if you're trying to extend it in around Lark Creek. I do like White Noise as my second selection in the race, purely on how the horse ran the second best figures in the Avondale Guineas. When he's come from behind them, he's had to concede, a couple of lengths on Lark Creek when turning for home, and he's done a really good job to finish through the line into his 4th position. He's got stakes winning form this season. He has a good draw. Interesting to hear from Andrew Forsman. They were looking to be a little bit more positive with him in the Avondale Guineas. It didn't quite eventuate. They had the chance to be in a forward and first half position on Saturday. He's a danger. He is a danger at around that $9 quote, and I like what I saw from in the Avondale Guineas to say he's a strong hope on the weekend.
Just talk to about Asterix, just quickly, BP, because he sort of brings a different form line. I see there's a sprinkling of money for him. The win last time was good, but it'll be a big effort.
It will be, and look, it will be a big effort for Asterix, Privileged Son, and look, even SVR as well, for those horses that come in just with the one win next to their name in their qualification by winning those particular maiden races. It's going to be a tough effort from where he is, isn't he? From drawing out in barrier number 12, he's a horse that is probably more than likely going to go back if that's how they want to play it tactically with him. I mean, great to see these colours. Of course, it's a Derby-winning colours. You have to go back to Popsy in 1993 when we saw those colours winning, and Mark Greatbatch in amongst the ownership. Of course, he handed out the Stags caps last weekend at the Ford Trophy final down in Queenstown, and great to see Mark Greatbatch part of a horse that's in the Derby. He's always loved his ponies. Here's Paddy Batch. So, yeah, it looked great to see him here with a chance here. Privileged Son won a maiden race out of counties where, look, it was low on form, but they did the job. They got the qualification. I mean, there's horses that, when there's only 13 runners, that's another thing about the race too. We don't have a full field for the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. When you have horses like Dark Destroyer, who ended up not going towards the Derby because of those few little niggles. Field of Gold didn't push on after his disappointment in the Avondale Guineas, and a number of other sort of maiden horses that were trying to work their way into the race. It couldn't win a race to be able to qualify. So, yeah, that's disappointing from that aspect. But really, every time you go over this field, guys, Lark Creek is the one that you keep coming back to.
Yeah. We'll get to Pops's and Paul's bets in just a second. Any final thoughts, Steve, on the Derby before we get to the boys' bets?
No, not really. It'll be intriguing how Jonathan rides Pinarello. I think it'll be dictative of how the race shape is throughout running. But if it is a real slack up front, then I wouldn't mind a mid-race move from Pinarello. It might be a calculated risk, but I think you've got to take down a race like this when you're up against a gun filly. But look, just going back on Pinarello, he does have that turn of foot. Of all winners on Avondale Guineas Day, he recorded the fastest last 200 on that meeting. So he was in the line nicely and through the line, Pinarello. But definitely I have the filly on top, Lark Creek. No surprise, $1.85.
Yeah, okay, BP, we'll come to you first. Well, how would you attack a Derby? If you want to give us a top 3 or 4, please do. But how would you attack the Derby from a betting perspective as well?
I'll just quickly go back to Stephen around how the race might be run with Lark Creek. If she does take that spot in behind and something goes to the front, if there is that mid-race move, are we concerned that something comes around and a couple of horses maybe try to open the race up, that she gets in a slightly awkward position at that point of the race at around the 1,000-metre mark when those other horses come rushing around?
Possibly, but you just got to back Vinny. I'd rather her still take a sit and Vinny work out a little bit of a passage, maybe off the rail at that stage where he sees maybe 1 or 2 going forward at around about the 800-metre mark, rather than her being exposed up front leading and then getting attacked because she could tend to over race, etc. So I'd rather just still take the sit and back Vinny to make a passage if there is 2 or 3 horses and she gets shuffled back, 2-3 back on the rail. That's when Vinny's got to make an option and peel her off the paint and get her a one off the fence.
He just wants to sort of ease off the leader's back potentially.
But you do make a good point, BP, and that's the beauty about the Derby. It looks tactical. Will it play out that way? And but if she's within 1 or 2 lengths at the top of the straight, her turn of foot, and if they run even tempo and nothing more, she'll just be too good.
Yeah, okay, Pops. Lay it out for us, the Derby this year.
Yeah, well, look, I think we're trying to find how to make some money off La Creek, and maybe the best way to do it is look towards a power play option. And there's a number of power plays here that the TAB have already released. I do like the one where it's La Creek to win and White Noise to run in the top 4. So that's at $4. Just quickly looking on my screen here, La Creek to win, White Noise top 4 is $4. There is a safer option of La Creek and White Noise to finish in the top 4. So that just gives you that insurance if La Creek is to be beaten. It's $2.20. I think that's maybe the possible line I'm looking to try and play is find something to couple up with La Creek. I do like White Noise as a strong top 2 place chance in the race. And if I was looking for a roughie to try and maybe see if it can squeak into the money somewhere, I'd be looking at maybe RJ's Flight, just because he's got that chance of having the same sort of run as he got on the Avondale Guineas race. He finished into 2nd position. Why can't he run a place on the weekend with a similar run?
Yeah, no reason why he can't. Paulie, how you release this power play you've been had up your sleeve? Let us know what it is.
Well, I agree with BP there. I think the only scenario where La Creek doesn't win is if she finds herself 3 or 4 back and struggles to get out down that Ellerslie straight. But with Vinny on board, I struggle to see that happening. So I've gone with a power play. I've gone with La Creek top 2 finish and Regal Lion top 4 finish at $7.
Juicy.
As you say, Maddie Cameron was quite bullish about Regal Lion's chances, and I'm sure if Regal Lion does get a wee bit of a run, and there is it's a true staying test, then I can see Regal Lion being there or thereabouts, and Murray Baker waving to the crowd from his couch at home.
Well, the 7th probably wasn't as bad as it looked, Paul. I mean, I'd not say it was bad in the Avondale Guineas. It was running on late, wasn't it? So
yeah,
you'd expect the 2400 will suit.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, La Creek, the boys, I know a few of the White Noise syndicate owners, so I'm hoping White Noise, wins or doesn't win, one or the other, but I'll be hearing plenty about it if White Noise
Just a quick question to BP.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that probably want to back Pinarello. I'm confident that La Creek trades in the red right throughout to race start time. Because of that and getting the percentage down as we get closer to race start time, do we see Pinarello touching 4, maybe 450?
Yeah. Maybe could even get into that $5 zone potentially. I think he is without a doubt the one that can beat La Creek. I mean, I know we probably haven't spoken enough about him. I mean, his victory, he just seems to be on target, doesn't he? With how he's won that 65. That is a good guide in terms of horses that have been, not as good as the Avondale Guineas, of course, but it has been a race where horses have qualified through that and got themselves into the Derby. He blew them away. I mean, he just left them standing, didn't he? With how that good turn of foot and acceleration, he produced those sectionals, as you said, Stephen, to be the best for the program in terms of how he was able to do that over 2,100 metres. He's got it all. He's got it all in front of him. He's a son of Tavistock, and he's got the right training combination too, of course, and Roger James and Robert Wellwood. So I see the Quinella is $3, the fixed to Quinella around La Creek, and also Pinarello. But yeah, to answer your question, Stephen, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a strong surge for La Creek, maybe similar to what we saw in the Avondale Guineas. The Avondale Guineas was all about the perfect pink leading up to race day, and then the La Creek surge came, and it came in a really big, strong wave, didn't it, in the last probably, 5 or 10 minutes of that race. Could we see something like that around here in the Derby on the weekend?
Yeah, okay, so 3.8 at the moment, Pinarello. We might perhaps suggesting that price may ease out slightly. The boys like La Creek, obviously, White Noise, Regal Lion, and maybe sneak a little bit of RJ's Flight into your combinations for this year's Derby. An outstanding race, and hopefully see the best of La Creek in it. Right, guys, we're going to go back to race 4 Let's have a look here. Stella Artois moved fastest stake, Steve. Intriguing little battle this.
Yeah, nice 3-year-olds, boys and girls here. On the bubbles heads of market, 320 on Wednesday, now trading 2.8. In front of the stablemate, I Wish I Win, 415 to 420, what we call smart money has driven that price in. Bonnie Lass, very solid, very hard in that third line at $5. Dark Destroyer, bouncing between 8 and 8.50, fourth line. Sassy Merlot, 9 out of point to $10. Shares that same price with Beldara and also Bellaluche. And the best of the rest looks to be Zaitaku at $21. But look, clear lead, again with the favourite. He's been well tried this preparation, number one on the bubbles, 320 to 280 third.
Interesting, Pops. I mean, what do we do with, I guess the whole race sort of hinges on what we decide around on the bubbles and what we make of that last start run, and perhaps even the trial as well around on the bubbles.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we've heard enough from Jamie to suggest that that's just how he is at times. You know, he is a horse that his trial leading into the Karaka Classic, they were happy to put to one side. Now, you'll look at his run and say that he's run into 7th position and maybe it backed it up, but I mean, that was a tough run that he's had in transit and a strongly run race where it's set up for back markers, and he's been beaten, 5.5 lengths by the stablemate and Pin Me Up. I thought the trial itself was very good for I Wish I Win. Really nice trial from him to be able to finish into 2nd position. I like what I saw from him from coming back in that trial and doing all his best work late in the piece. But look, the money's there again, but are you surprised by that? I mean, On the Bubbles has a pretty big fan club, and a lot of those that are in the ownership, they don't mind having a bet. So that's where that's driving from, for sure, around On the Bubbles. As I said, I Wish I Win. I think with his win down at Trentham, we were looking for that through his 3-year-old preparation. Maybe he's just come back a better horse, and he's a runner that now that's trialled nicely. Just might be in a good space for this. And as you said, you've had some money for the horse, Stephen, which, what was it, 450 to 420?
Yeah, interesting runner, because you go back to its Trentham win. It was a peach of a ride by Opie. He controlled the tempo, second outer. The overall figure was very good at Trentham. The only concern is the second and third horse. He had Not Guilty and Saracen, who post that Trentham race have been out hot favourites in each of their races and have failed. So, yeah, it's a tricky one because the figure was there, but the second and third horse haven't quite gone on with the job post Trentham.
Okay, that's interesting. Paul, on the bubbles or not on the bubbles?
I'm looking at the O'Sullivan Scott runner, Dark Destroyer. It comes off a couple of very, very good victories, over 1,400 metres at Matamata, and then over the mile. I just at the odds, what, 850 at the moment. I don't mind him, and I also don't mind the look of Sassy Merlot. She had a third and behind two very smart ones in Seamus and Parianui Bay at Trentham in the the Wellington Guineas, and then runner-up in the Desert Gold behind La Creek. So she's found a couple of really, really good ones to finish in front of her the last couple of times out. So yeah, I don't mind the look of her, especially for a top 3 finish anyway.
Okay, Paul's made a good point without even trying there. So
with Dark Destroyer, the best man to ask is BP. He's got a bit of an association with the stable. On Dark Destroyer, before we go to BP, look, I took a set against him at Ellerslie last start, just on the back of his poor Bone Crusher figure, which was around about 5 point lengths below par, and it was first time on a dry deck. Look, the speed map worked perfectly for Dark Destroyer on that day. They absolutely walked. He took the trail. He's just had the odd setbacks, and that's why I want to ask where the horse is at, BP, around Dark Destroyer. Have you heard out of the stable where he is at? Because obviously a few months ago he was touting to be one of the Derby prospects. So he's had the odd setback. Where is the horse at going into Saturday?
Yeah, well, you're right there, Stephen, because it's all been about the Derby. Since that Auckland Guineas victory, which has been great for the stable because they won it, prior with Rocket Spade, who then went on to win the Avondale Guineas, of course, and then went on to win the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. And prior to that, we saw Dragon Leap win the Auckland Guineas and then go on and win the Avondale Guineas, and of course started favourite in the Derby to finish into 4th position. So it was naturally just that was the path he was going to take. Now, they had a setback following that race, heading into the Waikato Guineas. Look, only a couple of days out, he was set to start in the race, and it's just been a long ongoing trying to just get him right again. So that's a little issue they've had there with him, but he seems to be in a good spot. But that's the question mark. You've had a horse that is getting ready for a derby and a little setback, and he's back to 1,400 metres. And I guess you can understand why you want to take a set against him when he's been 63 days off the scene compared to horses like I Wish I Win and On the Bubbles and Bonnie Lass who've been up and running, and Sassy Merlot and those type of horses. The other side of that coin with Dark Destroyer, he is a quality 3-year-old. I mean, he does have distance form over 1,400 metres. He was the winner of the Bone Crush, as you said there, Stephen. He's won an Auckland Guineas. He's been placed in a start, and he's a high-quality 3-year-old with a good draw. I'm guessing Sassy Merlot is going to be the one that will set things up with the wide barrier draw and the good gate speed that she does possess. He can park off them and see the late closer in the race, but you've just got to have that question mark around him where he's at compared to other horses with that gap between runs.
There's probably, the more I look at it, Steve, there's, Paul like Dark Destroyer and Sassy Merlot, there's probably a little bit more depth to this race than I initially thought, or outside the top 2 Te Akau runners.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of these horses possibly heading towards the Live-In Classic in a couple of weeks' time at Trentham. On the Bubble sits in that second line and behind stablemate Imperatriz. There is a lot of speed in this race, and that's why I go back to Dark Destroyer. He took a sit over 1,600 metres where they absolutely walked. There's genuine tempo here, so I don't think he'll be able to hold that trailing position from a decent alley. Sassy Merlot, she just wants to get on with the job. On speed, when 6 lengths above par for the first 1,000, the Desert Gold. She led in the Wellington Guineas, went 8 lengths above par for the first half of the race, and then 3 starts back at Ellerslie, she led and hung. So that's a bit of a question mark right-handed around Sassy Merlot. This may be D-Day. If she does tend to hang again throughout running, they might just keep her left-handed from here on in. But look, you got her also. Bonnie Lass is a horse that will look to go forward and sit in the first 2 or 3. And also Bella Luce, who led last start up against Bonnie Lass. And just on Bonnie Lass, really good figure last start. No, it wasn't black type, but a decent figure, not too far off the elite here in this race. And as I mentioned, she'll sit in the first 2 or 3 with a little bit of cover, hopefully. So not without a show, Bonnie Lass, who sits in that third line.
Shout out to Aidan Rodley, who we know will be parked on his couch.
Parked on the bench, just waiting for that next opportunity.
Yeah, well, exactly. Don't go on holiday again. He'll snaffle it. BP, how would you approach this from a betting perspective, the Mufasa?
It's a good race, isn't it? I mean, you mentioned Bonnie Lass there, and of course the horse that ran second to Bonnie Lass and Bella Luce also. Beldara's drawn an inside gate, and she's informed this preparation, who ran third in that Bonnie Lass race last time to the races. I found it overall a really difficult race, actually, to have something on. I will have something on I Wish I Win. It's a horse I want to gravitate towards with his recent win and how he's trialled up. So, yeah, around the 4.5 or 420 mark now. He's the one I'd like to have on, but gee, you'd like to have something on quite a few other runners in the race too. It's a nice race.
Yeah, it is a nice race. Paul, how would you be attacking it? You like a couple of value runners?
Yeah, I'm willing to have a stab at Dark Destroyer. If he's back to his best, then I think that 850 looks like a wee bit of value. So happy to take Dark Destroyer at 850, and then also Sassy Merlot holding on for a top 3 at $2.80.
Yeah, okay, don't mind that. Obviously, a lot of these horses will be progressing towards a Live-In Classic, Steve, you would think. I don't know if the boys have the Live-In Classic on standby.
As I mentioned, Imperatriz heads that market at $3. Thad on the back of what we saw last Saturday from memory on the Bubbles, around about that $4 or $5 line. You see there $4 on the Bubbles. Seamus, from all accounts, heading there over the 1,600 metres. We know he's won at Trentham previously at $6. Bonnie Lass, $9. I Wish I Win at $9. Field of Gold, I think, dropping back from 2,000, which we saw in the Avondale Guineas, to 16 at $14. Cacophonics, who was super in the undercard at Matamata last weekend at 14. Miss Ella, I'd love to see her in this race here, but from all accounts, she's heading towards the Oaks. We'll talk about her chances later on the show, but at $14. Then Carmen Line, just not sure where Carmen Line is at $18. So look, if they all head there, even Dark Destroyer might be stepping up to 16 next start and Live-In Classic. Probably represents a little bit of value if you like him on Saturday. So there's over the page Blissful Bell, impressive winner during the week at 26. So I think Te Akau hold the card here, obviously with Imperatriz and possibly what On the Bubbles does on Saturday. Okay, we better push on, boys. We're pushing time already here. Race number 6, Steve, on the card. The McKee family Sunline Vase, and obviously this brings together a nice bunch of staying fillies with an eye on the Oaks. Interesting race, headed by Glory Bound. Now, Glory Bound's original price there was $3.50. She's been a little bit soft in the market, and we're just struggling to write some early tickets on her, Glory Bound. So she's gone out to $4. There's been money for Ballon Rouge, $6.50 into $5.50. Miss Ella, $5, bounced between $5 and $5.50 in that third line. Outfit also well played out of the Jamie Richards barn, 7 into 6. Chieve and La Ville, $9 each of 2. Mustang Valley, 11 out to 13. Bellatrix Black, 18 high price, now trading 16. And Invincible, best of the rest, 16 out to 21. So the talking points, Glory Bound, just a little bit soft early doors. Money for the 1, the 7, and also a sprinkle for the 4 and the 6.
Okay, no surprise it's an excellent betting race, BP. How are you approaching the Sunline Vase this year?
Yeah, I think the self-obsession form is the best form to be leaning off in the race, and of course that is the David and Karen Alice Classic when last to the races a number of these horses ran in, including Glory Bound, who pushed Self-Obsession to finish into second position. It was a good finish between those two horses. Self-Obsession's won the Lowland, which is one of our key guides towards the New Zealand Oaks, more so than this particular race, the Sunline Vase, with the exception, of course, of a Madalena who won this race last year to then go on and win the New Zealand Oaks. So that's got to be a great pointer for Glory Bound. I'm a little concerned that there hasn't been the money for her. I guess how the race shape is the interesting one too. I mean, what happens here and how this race is going to be run over 2,100 metres? What is the horses that naturally put themselves there? What sort of tempo will there be, if any, in the race? So that's the question mark if you are going to be getting back and running, if there is a lack of any sort of pressure in amongst the race, because it's a hard one to try and work out map-wise how it's going to eventuate and what sort of tempo they will run.
Is that money, the lack of money, BP, for Glory Bound to do with the fact we've got, the Tiakau pair there, we've got Stephen Marsh there with Miss Ella and the thing. Do you think, can you put it down to that is what I'm asking you?
Yeah, well, I think Ballon Rouge is a horse that has taken money, and we've seen her win this preparation good races. The Eulogy, 8 Carat, those type of races. Things didn't go her way in the Alice Classic. And then you've got horses like Outfit, and Miss Ella, those type of horses they've been running honestly. Bellatrix Black then comes in from a maiden race. Achieve Le Villiers won its last 2. So you can understand maybe the option of maybe shopping around trying to find a price. Then maybe those horses might cool down in the market, and then we'll start seeing a surge at the top of the market towards horses like Glory Bound. So maybe that's my sort of early read on what's happening around the market.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Paulie, what are your early thoughts here around a Sunline Vase? Nice bunch of staying fillies.
Yeah, certainly are. I did like the look of Miss Ella as well. I thought that was, she looked all class in that Oaks Prelude. I'm trying to look slightly outside the square here, and I'm just a bit concerned that the one I have identified is on the drift. Out of the Jamie Richards stable again. Invincible, now out to $21 from 16, so a wee bit of a concern there, but I thought she hit the line really, really well in that Oaks Prelude, finishing 4th behind Miss Ella, and I think she'll be able to find the distance here, so I guess we're going to get a better price, because she just keeps she just keeps drifting. A wee bit like the favourite, Glory Bound. I don't think we'll see Invincible come in, so maybe wait until tomorrow. We might get out to 26 or 31s. But I was encouraged by her running that Oaks Prelude.
Yeah, I suppose it helps in some way that potentially the third seed for the Jamie Richards stable, Paul, and that's why we do see perhaps a little bit of a drift there.
Yeah, I wonder, how did the third seed go? Was it the second or third seed go on Karaka night? Out of that stable.
Oh, yeah, put me up. Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. Look, Miss Ella, she'll be the leader, you would think.
I think she is,
and how's that speed map look? Pops is suggesting a little bit awkward.
Yeah, I think she goes forward. Possibly Ballon Rouge. She's looked to take a spot in a couple of her lead-up races here. I think with Ballon Rouge, they're saying $6 or $7 next to her name, but she has a strong SP profile in her last 3 starts. She's travelled between $2 and $3 for the majority of those 3 runs. So, look, we're not totally dissing her. The 2000, maybe a bit of a query around Ballon Rouge. She found herself in a sticky situation at the business end of the Fillies Classic Te Rapa. They absolutely crawled in that race, 17.9 lengths for the first 1,400 metres. So it was a real dash home in the last 600, and she just got caught up in a little bit of traffic around about the 500 metre mark. I still wanted to see her just do a little bit more in the last 200 and through the line, Ballon Rouge, but I can see why punters have gravitated towards the 6.5 original price. She's now trading at 550.
I've got had more in my
yeah, I think that's a touch of an overreaction. I just wanted to see a little bit more when she got clear air in the last 300 metres and through the line, but look, the jockey was fairly kind on her in that last furlong or two. Just back to the Oaks Prelude, which we saw at Pukekohe over 1,600 metres. Miss Ella dictated that race. Look, the first 1,000 metres they went 13.8 lengths below par, so it really did set up for Miss Ella. She had the best turn of foot in that race over a shorter trip, and she put them to bed. She ran a sub 34 for the last 600. The horse out of that race I'm intrigued on is Outfit. She got caught up in a little bit of traffic in a sprint affair. She got the gap at the last 400 metres. She recorded in that race clearly the fastest last 200. In fact, her last 200 was the quickest in that meeting at Pukekohe a week or so ago. So she's out of Costume. We know Costume was good enough to win a Herbie Dyke and a Livermore Classic at Group 1 company. So she's bred to get 2,000 metres. Outfit. There's a slight query out of the stable, right-handed, but she managed to tick that box at Pukekohe, you could say. So she's the one I'm keen on, Outfit, to turn the tables. I've just got a little bit of a set against Miss Ella over 2,000 metres, and that's why I want to see her in a Live-In Classic possibly. But, Love Villy. Interesting run at BP around Love Villy. She comes from a different angle, winning a Maiden as At race. If you weigh up, because she ran on the same day as the Fillies Classic. If you weigh up those two races, it was 2 lengths inferior to the Fillies Classic, La Villy's victory in the last race at Te Rapa. She's not nominated for the Oaks, but look, they can late nom her if she was to do a job here. So where do you sit Love Villy? Because she's been well played. It ran about $9, BP.
Yeah, look, I was impressed with how she won down the line before coming up north for that Maiden as At race, because she was actually trying to chase that the Oaks Prelude race when it was twice, of course, down for New Plymouth, and both times couldn't quite happen. So she had to find a different path to continue on her preparation. So hence why they found that Maiden as At race at Te Rapa. Oh, look, you got to like how she's driven underneath horses. She was able to beat home a horse who's then gone on to run in the Lowland and certainly was disappointing on Wednesday. So more distance. Daughter of Puccini, she's got a sort of a sticky gait. Looks like she'll be trying to come from back in the field. Outfit, you're right, Stephen. I mean, that was a very good run in the Oaks Prelude and behind Miss Ella. And a little pop quiz here. Costume, of course, trained by Team Rogerson. That was the last Group 1 winner for the team before Mascarpone won on the weekend just gone. Finished into second position, but had a lot more to offer, and probably a horse that's going to enjoy the distance as well of 2,100 metres. Miss Ella, she shouldn't do too much work to find that position up front, should she, Stephen? I mean, she's drawn out, but she should naturally just find herself there. She's a horse who can find that front position, no problem at all. So that's going to be a big asset for her, getting to that front position without having to squeeze too much juice out of the orange. Yeah,
and we've seen, look, this race could be run as a similar tempo to what we've seen in the Fillies Classic and the Royal Stakes on New Year's Day, where they've absolutely dawdled in front, because a lot of trainers, a lot of connections, they're progressing towards a 2-4. They don't want a hard race leading into that. And there is a few horses here questioning about their staying credentials. So a lot of these horses will just want to sit where they're found comfortably from their draws. We may see a similar profile in terms of the race shape to what we've seen in a lot of the Filly 2,000 metre races thus far.
Okay, so she might just get away in front and kick like she did in that Prelude.
Yeah, I still got a query over 2,000, even with the right race shape around Miss Ella, but I've got no knock on them trying with this horse by Afrage to go over a staying trip and possibly head towards the Oaks against her own sex, where you're up against quality boys in the Live-In Classic. So I see that angle, but I just feel in time she's going to be a 16 via 2,000 2-4 horse.
Okay. Pops, you sounded relatively keen on Glory Bound. How would you be attacking the Sunline Vase?
Yeah, I'm really looking for her to be in a more forward position so she can find herself fifth or sixth in that type of spot, because that's going to be key to the race for her, and then she can start rolling at the right time. So when she's there to challenge, she's in that striking position on the point of the bend to be able to try and chase down the leaders. If she can do exactly that, she's got turn of foot, and she is a horse who has the ability to stay through her breeding. So with that in mind, I do like her. I've been with her pretty much all this preparation, to be honest with you, and hoping that she can get to an Oaks and be there in the right sort of form. We've seen this stable win this race a couple of years ago and propel them towards competing in the New Zealand Oaks, and that's what I'm sort of leaning on here with Glory Bound. So yeah, I'll mark her as my top pick in the race.
Former Maiden of the Week, Glory Bound?
It is.
Surely.
There's actually 3 in the race.
Bellatrix Black?
Bellatrix Black, yes. And the other one is, Cruzy Lass.
Okay, very good. Yeah, pays to follow. Maiden of the Week. Paul, where'd you settle in this year's the Sunline Vase?
I'm just going to go for a top 4 bet on Invincible, currently 360. But if all the action continues at the top of the market tomorrow morning, I'm sure we'll get a few extra cents out of Steve and the boys. So Invincible for a top 4 finish at 360. Would surprise me to see that to 450.
Not known for his generosity, Steve. Paul, is he?
Fair dinkum.
It's good coming from him.
Very good, very good. Right,
Just on Bellatrix Black.
Yeah,
because
good maiden one.
Different angle again. Last up maiden win. The maiden race rated fractionally below par, so probably has to improve 6 or 7 lengths for the likes of the top 2 or 3 in the market. She's a funny one because I want to take her a set against her over 2,000 metres because I just don't think she quite has a turn of foot the way the race shape potentially could turn out. But then I think she's a go over 2-4 in the Oaks in a real staying event. So
okay. Well, we might be able to have a look at an Oaks. The boys might have an Oaks there.
Well, let's bring one up. I think she's around that $21 price, but obviously hitting the market is Self Obsession, who won the Lowland on Wednesday. Look, $2.40 Self Obsession. I don't think she's going to start any longer, and that's even including the possibilities of what's going to unfold on Saturday at Ellerslie. So she's $2.40. She's done everything right.
Yep.
3 Group 2s on the bounce. In front of the Perfect Pink at $5, who's almost a forgotten horse at this stage. Glory Bound, $6, can really make a stamp into that second line.
Yep.
Aspen Colorado, $10, with doing all her best work through the line. Ballon Rouge, $14. La Creek just won't be there. Miss Ella at $14. Achieve, Outfit $18. Might be a touch over. I'll just go back in the office and work that one out. And Rue Claire, $26. And I think if you go over the page, you'll see Bellatrix Black at around about that $26, $31 price. There you go.
Yeah, okay. No, that's going to be... what did I hear in my earphones? Did someone fall off their chair? Who was that? Are you all right, BP? Paul, are you still with us?
That was Bevan Sweeney.
Oh.
he wants me out.
Oh, right, okay, well, we better hurry
let's
up.
Let's move this along.
Rightio, well, let's get to the 8th race on the card. Steve, it's the King's Plate, the Haunui Farm King's Plate, Group 3 of the 1,200 metres, and an interesting betting market.
Yeah, dominated by 2 horses here, the boy versus the girl. Punter's pretty keen on the point end of the market, headed by Sort of State. Look, we went up 230 each of 2, but Sort of State now 220, set it to the top. In front of Babylon Berlin, 230 remains that opening quote. Tavere, $7 in that third line. Mega Bourbon, double figures, 15. A little bit of spec in this middle market. Iconic Star, 31 to 21. One More Time, looks to be a pace influencer at 26, well spec'd. And New York Jazz, best of the rest at 31. So a bit of specking around the 9 and the 10, but best lead I can give clearly sits at the 1 Sort of State.
Yeah, it's interesting how the weight scale sets up here, BP. Good money Sort of State, but no surprise off that last start win.
Look, it isn't really, is it? And he's trialled nicely, Sort of State. I mean, he's a high-class 3-year-old colt. He's a Group 1 winner from last year. They had a serious roll of the dice with him through the Melbourne Spring, and obviously ran in the Coolmore behind Home Affairs and horses like that. And it was an Australian preparation through Sydney as well that it just didn't quite eventuate. But as Jamie mentioned a number of times, he was taking on the creme de la creme at the same time in Australia. He's come back, and he's come back in good order, hasn't he? That was a good win last time out when beating Home Imperatriz. And he will have to do some work from barrier number 9, but he's a horse that naturally gets out of the barriers anyway. You would imagine that both he and Babylon Berlin are going to be in their fighting positions, and it's going to be down to best man or best girl who takes the race out between these 2 horses. What I will say about the race too is there's some very good closers in this race, some horses in this race that love strong 1,200 metre races, and if that falls into their hands, a horse like Tavere is deserving of a shot at a race like this. She has got really good change-up speed. Boy, I just love how she can change up on a dime, really. And we've seen that from her with how she's won her 4 races, and a great opportunity here to tackle a company like this And Mega Bourbon, another horse who was a runner that produced the best section for the entire meeting at Avondale Guineas Day, is at around the $15 mark. To be honest with you, though, it's pretty hard to go past what we see from the 1 and the 6, the 6 and the 1, because Babylon Berlin brings high-class Group 1 form, as we've spoken about beforehand, of course, with her placing in behind on Trivier and Levante, and then with how she was able to win on Karaka Million Night.
Babylon Berlin, 54 kilograms, Steve. 54 kilograms for Babylon Berlin. It's obviously set weights and penalties. But,
set weights and penalties with that 2 kg allowance of being a mare as well. But look, I want to go back to Karaka Million Night and really assess the Almanzor versus the Concord. So yeah, Babylon Berlin rating 1.2 lengths superior. V sort of stayed on Karaka Million Night. That's just on raw figures. So then you look at the weight adjustment. You had Sort of State carrying 60.5 in the Almanzor, drops 5.5 kegs for this assignment. Yeah, Babylon Berlin carrying 56.5 in the Concord, drops 2 kegs from the Concord to 54.5. So on the weight adjustment, I've got clearly Sort of State in front of Babylon Berlin, and he will start fave in my eye. I don't see too much of a concern from barrier 9, Sort of State, purely because one more time's drawn barrier 8, and one more time will go forward. So I think Sort of State can just get a nice drag from one more time, and he doesn't have to lead. He took a sit last start in the Almanzor, which was a nice little variable for a variety in his running, because he's been a horse that's liked to get on with the job from what we saw as a 2-year-old. But he managed to take a sit midway through the Almanzor and run into that second placing, and then really hit the lead at the top of the straight. Look, he looks okay placed at set weights and penalties. We're rating at 88, but we mentioned this last Saturday with Imperatrice. These 3-year-olds against the older horses, their ratings are a little bit misleading. It's just hard for a 3-year-old to get that rating above 90, even if you've won a Group 1. Well, he's no doubt he's got a high rating as a 4-year-old, possibly sits around that 100 for New Zealand ratings once he gets to a 4-year-old campaign Sort of State. So with a rating 88, he's better than that. But again, it's just hard to get that rating up as a 3-year-old. So Sort of State, back on Babylon Berlin. So if you ask Ben Foote what draw you didn't want around this horse, it would be barrier 1. It would be barrier 1. She can be a little bit tardy. She's been better this campaign as an older horse. But BP from barrier 1, is there a concern if she's a bit tardy, there's a bit of pressure on the outside of her, she may find herself stuck on the rail 2-3 back? Am I right? If Ben Foote had his way, he'd be looking for a middle range marble, even one with a double figure next to her name, V the Ace?
Yeah, and it's something we hear a lot about, isn't it, with horses that are natural runners. They do like to sort of glide there, where you can be that horse that pressures an inside runner, or if you're just so well out of the barriers and you jump from 5, 6, 7, you just naturally roll over. Where here from an inside gate, you have to hustle to keep out those horses that are drawn out wide in 4, 5, 6, 7, and anything out wider. What I will say to counteract that is she is a very fast horse out of the barriers at the same time anyway. So she might just have that very quick early snap out of the barriers anyway to be able to withhold any horses that are going to come out from wide. But yes, overall, I think she would have been liking a draw where she can idle over and get to the rail, or maybe even sit outside leader in a position like that. So that's the concern for me. I keep coming back to Sort of State though. I mean, he is just a horse that they won the race last year, of course, with Trivier as a 3-year-old, did Tiako, and look, they've got a great chance to do it again here with Sort of State. I thought he was nice in his trial, just cleaned him up nicely off the back of how he was able to win on Karaka Million Night. And there's a number of factors in his favour. You reckon he'll get around that $2 mark, Stephen, and there'll be that right separation, there's some decent separation, should I say, between him and Babylon Berlin?
Yeah, look, I don't think he went deep into the red. Maybe 190 might be his bottom price. Babylon Berlin possibly peaks 250, but I think predominantly the market will generate towards the top 2, and you might even get to Veer drifting. Just on to Veer, look, she's got to find 2 lengths on her PB, which was last start, but she's heading in the right way. You go back 2 starts back in the rating 74, it was 2 lengths inferior to her open class win. So she keeps improving, but she's just got to make that next step. Okay. And that next step can be one of the most difficult ones against Group 1 horses. So, but if she gets the right tempo, she's the one, she's the closer, but just got to improve a couple of lengths on the top 2 in the market. But yeah, just back to the original question, maybe $1.90 bottom price, just with the overall profile Sort of State brings with the stable, etc. And But yeah, 250 Babylon Burn. I don't think you'll get too much more than that.
Okay, Paul, weigh in here, please. Can anyone challenge these top two in a King's Plate?
I don't think anyone can challenge Sort of State, so I'll make it nice, short and simple. I can see we're running out of time.
Sweens is on top of you.
I was very tempted to make him my best bet this week, but I went looking for a wee bit more value elsewhere. But I do think he will be just a wee bit too good. Let's not forget that he beat stablemate on the bubbles as a 2-year-old and did it very, very convincingly on the bubbles. We've got favourite in the Mufasa earlier on in the card. So I'm just looking straight at the top of the market. Sort of State, yes please, 220.
Short and sweet for Paul, BP. It sounds like you're heading in sort of a similar direction here.
Yeah, and look, maybe we could look to play the Quinella, or I'm sure there'll be power plays around the race. That's where you could maybe try and make some money with trying to find a top 4 for a Mega Bourbon and Tavere and those type of horses with the selection you like, if it's either Sort of State or Babylon Berlin. So, yeah, look, it's part of the quaddie. You know, there's going to be a juicy quaddie on offer for Derby Day. There's a number of different ways to try and make some money off the race, but yeah, I'll go as top selection Sort of State.
I'm glad you brought that up, BP, because there will be power plays on every race at Ellerslie this Saturday, so keep your eyes open.
Have we stopped that bonus back blitz, Paul? Have that finished?
Yeah, we've got another bonus back blitz this Saturday. The first 4 races at Ellerslie, Wingatui, Randwick and Flemington will be bonus back races, so plenty of opportunities to, if you don't pick a winner, to maybe get a bonus back in the account.
Okay, so
Hopefully 16 races, not 12 with Randwick.
Yeah, well, that's right, exactly. We've got a huge day over the across the Tasman, which we've got absolutely no time to talk about at all. But yeah, hopefully 16 bonus back races. Do we need more than 2 in the quaddie then, Pops? Sort of State, Babylon Berlin, or just take 2?
Yeah, look, I think you'd probably, just for insurance sake, you'd want to have Babylon Berlin on a ticket. I mean, gee, you'd hate to not have it going around on a ticket, to be honest with you. So maybe need to thicken it up in other legs. But Steve's about to tell us his best bet very shortly, and it runs in the last race. So it could be maybe a very narrow ticket.
We'll stay with you first. What's your best bet for Derby Day at Ellerslie?
Look, I'm denied a few times around this, but I'm going to go with Glory Bound, despite the drift that we're seeing around here at the moment. I just wonder, as we get closer to start time, that she starts working her way back in the marketplace. I just hope that she can find herself in a position where she can show that dazzling turn of foot. And if she's not too far off them on the point of the bend and she's in that challenging position, she is lethal. And I really look forward to seeing her maybe trying to inject her way up the market towards the New Zealand Oaks behind horses like Self Obsession and obviously the Perfect Pink. So I'll mark her as my best bet of the day in the Sunline Bars.
Yeah, okay, Glory Bound. Going to be hard to beat off that last start run at Te Rapa. Paulie, what have you settled on for your bet of the week, please?
I've gone to race 7 at Ellerslie, the Vertical Logistics 1200, and I like number 5, Johnny. Fresh up, no problems whatsoever, gets a decent barrier draw out of the 3. I think Tim and Margaret Carter have got a boy here who is just full of speed, and I think he'll go to the front, won't have to spend too much, and I think we'll just have a wee bit too much for the rest of the field. So Johnny, 750.
There was that plunge on him at Te Rapa last time he raced Steve, wasn't there? Johnny.
Open class
BP, you'll remember that. Yeah, what was against Devontae?
It was in the Counties Bowl. Started at $8.70.
I think it peaked at 26 BP from memory.
$26. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Paul following the money train. Clever, Paul. Very clever. You've done it again. Johnny, your bet of the day, Steve. Give us your one, please.
Yeah, I'll head to the last Ellerslie race 10, the rating 65, 1400. Zaitaku, very keen on this horse. Presented off a 110-day spell at Te Rapa over 1300 metres at the same grade. Barrier 13, OP elected to go back, charged home in behind Miss Cartier, who's been a sub-winner last Saturday at Mudda. Recorded impressive. The fastest last 8.64 closing splits. Look, Ryan Elliott jumps aboard Thaddeus, OP being suspended, as we now know.
No
because drawn barrier 1, so it's a little bit sticky, but I think if he can just get her off the rail or get him off the rail mid-race, he'll be too good for this lot, Zaitaku.
He'll go around in this race, you believe? Race
Yes.
10? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it comes out
$2.50, just put him through the grades. They've got, they're well represented, Jamie Richards in the in the stakes race earlier in the day. So, yeah.
Okay, guys, we better wrap it up. Thanks, Paul, for your efforts. As always, what are your plans for Derby Day?
I'll be watching the Derby. Don't worry about that. And don't forget, there's a $100,000 guaranteed late quaddie at Ellerslie, as well as a $30,000 guaranteed first four on every race at Ellerslie as well. So plenty of chances to pick up a little bit of cash.
Oh, absolutely. Enjoy your day, BP. Be well. Come right for us. We want to see you back on track as soon as we can.
Yep, thanks for that, Thad, and we'll be entertaining some of those options that are available. $100,000 quaddies and $30,000 first fours. They'll probably get touched up over the weekend, that's for sure. So looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, power plays in every race. We've got no excuses. Great days racing both sides of the Tasman. Thank you, boys. Thank you, Steve, for your efforts as always. Much appreciated. And thank you for joining us on the leg up. We'll see you in 7 days' time. Enjoy your Derby Day.